Hello, my friend. Welcome to my channel. Today, I'd like to introduce you an ancient Chinese philosopher. I was thinking to use his language to explain the manifestation of experience. By the way, if you never watched my videos before, my friend, please give me a chance. Because I'm doing a summary series now, so even if you never watch other videos, you will be able to understand what this episode is about. And I'm not exaggerating, but there is a chance after watching this video, you might completely change how you understand the world and understand yourself. Let's give it a try. So today, I would like to introduce an ancient Chinese philosopher, Zhuangzi. Zhuangzi was an important philosopher during the Warring States period and one of the most significant developers of Daoist philosophy after Laozi. He expressed his idea through the book Zhuangzi, using parables, dream narratives, and linguistic reversals to deeply explore how human beings become constrained by discriminating consciousness and conceptual systems. His central concern was not to construct a theoretical system about the world, but to reveal how cognition continuously produces the split between self and world, and things and self, thereby causing us to lose direct access to holistic experience. In the Tao Te Ching, Laozi introduced the Tao as the fundamental principle of the cosmos and emphasized the Wu Wei and the wisdom of aligning with nature. Zhuangzi, however, takes this further. He moves beyond the question of how to align with the Tao and instead turns towards deconstructing the very idea of any fixed conceptual standpoint. In doing so, he transforms Daoism from a philosophy concerned with cosmic order into a radical reflection on the limits of cognition and language, bringing thought back to an undivided, non-fragmented field of experience. But right here, right now, I would like to make a clarification. I more tend to stand with middle way and holistic thinking, inclusive thinking. So in terms of deconstruction, I believe that Zhuangzi was a very radical person. So the relationship between he and Laozi is very similar to Buddhism and Hinduism. It's just that Zhuangzi and Laozi, they belong to the same Daoism. But Hinduism and Buddhism, they belong to the same root. They are the same river, but they split as two different religions right now. But in my eyes, I genuinely see Buddhism and Hinduism as a same river from the same root, and they are flowing to the same direction. That river is compassion, is love, is harmony. It's just that, I'd like to explain a lot in the future about how to have the reconciliation between Buddhism and Hinduism. But right now, let's just focus on Zhuangzi. So anyway, the boat of Zhuangzi, which we are all flowing towards the ocean of love, of the final realization of reality. But right now, I'd like to borrow his boat to explain the manifestation of experience. So Zhuangzi wrote a book named Qi Wu Lun. And I'm being completely honest with you. Yes, there are tendency towards relativism, especially about right and wrong is both relative. So that is radical. But in another hand, about deconstructing the dualism between consciousness and matter, body and mind, there is profound wisdom in this book. That is why I choose to use Qi Wu Lun on this specific purpose to deconstruct the dualistic thinking. So what we are going to do now is we are going to use the perspective of relational non-duality to re-understand Zhuangzi's Qi Wu Lun. Qi Wu Lun means discourse on equalizing things. From this view, the text is not claiming that all things are literally the same, nor it is denying the existence of subjective experience. Rather, it is doing something much deeper, dissolving the very structure of divided cognition itself. From this perspective, The core of Qi Wu Lun is not equalizing things, but equalizing fragmentation. On the surface, it speaks of the equality of all things and the dissolution of distinctions. But if we stop at the idea that everything is the same, we miss its real intention. What it actually points to is that the way we divide the world can itself be seen, questioned, and loosened. The divisions between subject and object, mind and matter, self and world, are not independently existing entities, but structural results produced by cognition as it slices experience into categories. So it directly reminded me Vedanta. Vedanta said that Brahman is Atma. So in relational non-duality, we see it further. We see that what is Atma? Atma is the manifestation of Brahman. Atma, which is our individual self. Our individual self is the beautiful, meaningful manifestation of Brahman. It's the expression of Brahman. So it's not a mistake. It's not ignorance. But the relationship between Brahman and Atma, they are non-dividable. If you're trying to divide them as two, then that is what caused the suffering. That's the real ignorance. In Qi Wu Lun, the idea of wu sang wo, you can translate it as I lose myself if you translate literally. So this idea is crucial. It does not mean that the self disappears or is negated, but rather that the underlying structure of a fixed self observing the world temporarily stops operating. When this structure loosens, what emerges is not nothingness, but the dissolution of the boundary between observer and the observed. And obviously, this stance is very different than objective or subjective idealism. In next episode, we will discuss this in a lot detail. It's okay, this is a long way to go. Similarly, Tian Lai in Qi Wu Lun, that means sound of heaven, is not a mystical natural sound, but the spontaneous resonance of the entire relational system when conceptual interpretation and mental centering cease to dominate. What does it remind you? Well, at least it really reminds me Buddhism, neti-neti, and Brahman in Hinduism. They are both trying to express the transcendence of this essence. And this essence is what? The essence itself is the flow of relationship. The same applies to the famous phrase, 天地与我并生,万物与我为一. That means heaven and earth are born with me. All things are one with me. Within this framework, it is not a metaphysical claim about cosmic unity, but a statement that when the subject-object split is dissolved, self and world arise simultaneously as aspects of the same experiential structure, with no absolute priority or independent existence. Their oneness does not come from unification, but from the fact that they were never truly separate in the first place, only differentiated within a relational field. Consciousness and matter, they are all manifestation from the same relational field. They were never separate, and you cannot divide them. Thus, the real significance of Qi Wu Lun lies in its continuous loosing of the subject-object, mind-matter, and body-mind divisions. In relational non-duality terms, these oppositions can be understood as different expressions of the same relational system. Subject and object are two ends of a single event. Mind and matter are inner and outer folds of one generative field. And body and mind are different stabilizations of the same process. Experience, therefore, is not an encounter between a subject and an object, but the self-unfolding of a relational field. In fact, from a broader philosophical perspective, this resonates perfectly with Buddhist idea of dependent origination and shunyata, which emphasize that all phenomena lack independent self-nature, and also echoes the Vedanta intuition of Brahman and Atma are one, though expressed differently. One through deconstruction of fixed centers, the other through affirmation of total unity. Even in ancient Greek thought, from Heraclitus' philosophy of flux to later phenomenology, we find similar attempts to understand reality as process and relation rather than static substance. If we summarize Qi Wu Lun in relational non-duality terms, we can say, it is not claiming that differences do not exist, but that differences have never existed independently of relation. When the observer no longer fragments reality into self and world, the world is no longer a collection of objects, but an unfolding relational field, within which all things appears as temporary expressions of a single dynamic process. So in this playlist, we are mainly discussing the manifestation of experience. So why through all the manifestation, I choose to discuss the manifestation of experience first. In last summarize and the first episode in this playlist, I had a very clear explanation why. So now we use the Zhuangzi's philosophy to explain this again. And I don't really mind if you find the explanation I make by myself with my own word makes sense to you, that would be great. Otherwise, you can just listen to what I'm talking right now, use Zhuangzi's philosophy to explain the same thing. As long as, doesn't matter which one, as long as you find it makes sense to you. So, if we look at the five senses through Zhuangzi's philosophy, the first move is not to explain how perception works mechanically, but to dismantle a presupposition we almost never question, that the world is out there and I am in here, and that I use a sensory system to access a world that already exists independently. Well, that is Descartes' mind-body duality. We explained that in detail in last summary episode. Zhuangzi does not agree with that, neither do I. From his perspective, this structure itself already installs a division, an isolated self, an external world, and a sensory bridge between the two. Yet, at the level of immediate experience, these three may not be pre-existing at all. They may instead be co-arising aspects of a single relational unfolding, generated together in the very event of perception. So the key question is not how do I perceive the world, but rather how does perception happen at all? If we return to experience itself, we notice that seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling are not operations performed by a subject on an object. They are more like relational events that take form under certain conditions. For example, touch. The quality of hardness is not located purely in the table, nor purely in the hand. It arises in the interaction between pressure, bodily feedback, and material structure. In vision, a tree is not first a finished object waiting outside to be captured by the eye. It is something that emerges through the coordinated activity of light, form, visual processing, and conscious interpretation. Hearing, smell, and taste function in the same way. They are not internal presentations of external properties entering the mind, but events in which body and word synchronize under specific conditions. allowing experience to appear. From this perspective, the five senses are no longer gateways to a pre-giving world. They are points where relational reality becomes visible to itself. The statement, "I perceive the world," already assumes a split structure. But at a deeper level, there may be no fixed perceiver and no independently existing world being perceived. Only perception happening, with self and world as temporary labels within it. When this division loosens, the meaning of Zhuangzi's idea of the equalization of things, Qi Wu, begins to show itself. It does not mean that all things are identical in substance, but that nothing possesses an independent essence outside of relation. In the end, the senses are not tools. The world is not an object, and the self is not a center. There is only the ongoing unfolding of relational appearance, taking different forms as experience itself. Okay, so now you might want to challenge me. If the duality between matter and mind is unreal, then how could I say there is such thing as right and wrong? Maybe everything just relative. There is no such thing as right and wrong. So how do I understand this? Let me explain. So when we say that the duality between matter and mind is not real, is something we can erase, we're not saying that mind and matter, they are both not existing. They do exist because they exist as the manifestation, the expression of the essence. But in order to understand this essence, we need to deconstruct this duality. We have to deconstruct this understanding. Then we can understand the oneness as the essence. Because in this oneness, there is no such thing as duality between mind and matter. They all become different light reflected by the same crystal, and they are beautiful. So this is how we understand oneness, through negating. So no matter is by the negating from Buddhism or from affirming from Hinduism, our only purpose, the same purpose, is to understand this oneness, the one truth. But I do believe we should be very careful when we are using the method of negating. It's not saying that nothing exists, nothing is real, and the reality is nothing is real. It's not like that. It's the opposite. It does exist. It's just sometimes that this transcendent essence of this truth itself require us to transcend the dualistic understanding. That's all. And something more important is that no matter you use the path, you use the method of affirming or negating, essentially it leads to the same direction, which is this ocean of compassion, of love, of understanding. There is no other ocean than this. Why? Because in that ocean of oneness, this is so natural to emerge. If you understand the true nature of oneness, you will naturally have compassion, have understanding and love towards other existence, no matter it's a stone or animal or other human being. This is inevitable. This is the natural result. Therefore, we come back to the question, why there's still distinction between right behavior and wrong behavior. Because in such circumstances, if based on such understanding, how could you just in front of a person is harming another person, how could you say, it's okay, just keep doing that? Everything is relative. You think it's right, then do it. You wouldn't do that, right? Because you know that he's harming somebody else or harming himself. And you want to help out. You want to say that, please, my friend, please stop hurting other people or other animal, or stop hurting yourself. This is such a natural reaction. And because of this, we naturally have morality. We naturally have care for others. It's not forced by something. It's not forced by law or forced by rituals or forced by any doctrines. It's just the natural emergence of morality, sense of morality. And this is why that even we can deconstruct the dualistic thinking between mind and matter, but we cannot say that there is no such thing as right and wrong. It's the opposite. Everything, every beautiful quality of humanity, every part, every drop of morality is all built based on our understanding of this oneness. That's why I often say that relational non-duality will necessarily lead to the understanding of oneness, and understanding of oneness will naturally lead to the morality. There is definitely, this is going to be the path. There is no other option on here. So please, please, don't go extreme and don't disconnect with your heart. Don't forget the reason why you deconstruct this duality. What is the final purpose? There is a purpose for this. And the purpose is that you can understand, you can realize one. That's the purpose, not relativism. We are not destroyed for destruction. We destroy our ignorance so we can see the true nature. So never, 不忘初心, 不忘初心. Do not forget your original intention. Also, I'd like to remind one thing that we always forgot, that what is the background? What kind of background does Zhuangzi and Buddha has such a very radical tendency of deconstruction? Let's say Zhuangzi first. Zhuangzi was in 战国时期, and that time is 诸侯争霸, and there are war, and there are so many relativism is going on in that time, and the society was not stable. So people get so tired of debating and trying to figure out what is right, what is wrong. There are so many conflicts because the society, there are so many suffering going on. And the time of Buddha in ancient India, that time the caste system was so powerful that a lot of people, they are repressed since the time they were born. And there are also a lot of animal sacrifice. There are a lot of things that already become a system of repression. That's why no matter is Zhuangzi or Buddha, their thought, their philosophical thought are very radical because they want to transcend this. They want to correct these things because back to the time, they go to another extreme and they need to correct it to the middle. So sometimes they use a very strong power to trying to guide it to another road. So this is the reason why it happened in history. So we need to understand those kind of extreme and radical method was for specific purpose. We are in extreme left, so we're trying to bring ourselves to the middle. But our goal is not to go to extreme right. It's not like that. We want the middle. We want to back to the balance. That's the final goal, not to another extreme. So this is why that during that time, if people will realize it, we should have a more balanced understanding now, not go to another radical. Because there is a Chinese word called 矫枉过正, that means overcorrection. When you do that, you just go to straight away another extreme, and that will never work. We just go from this extreme, go to another extreme, and keep doing this, then we will forever suffer. What we need is a middle way, is to really understand how to have the reconciliation. This is what we really need. So in a lot of sense, I do understand why Zhuangzi and Buddha back then they do such thing, they spread such radical understanding, because that's just part of the history. Sometimes we need to correct ourselves, but sometimes maybe we just try too hard, let's see. So anyway, I hope that during the process we're explaining relational non-duality, you can see how we can integrate all of these different understandings through time, through different place, that we can have a more coherent, more balanced understanding based on the spirit of middle way and oneness and non-duality. So I'm aiming to express this, and I hope you can find it makes sense to you and resonate with me. And it's very important that we can accompany each other during this journey. And that's all I want to say. I will see you in the next episode, my friend. If you like my channel, please subscribe, please support, and you can donate to my Buy Me a Coffee link if you'd like to, and I would be really appreciate. Thank you so much. See you again.